So let's get started. Good afternoon and welcome to the August 2013 Recognize Good Legend Ceremony honoring Miss Ruby Martinez Zgabay. There are a couple of folks here I would like to introduce. We are at the facilities of IBM Austin, 11501 Burnett Road in the Longhorn Room with Building 904. And first off is our nominee, Ruby. Stand up and say hello. Second, her mother, Ms. Naomi Crabe. Her father, Mr. Victor Martinez. And her husband, Jonathan. One gentleman sitting in the back has been through this ceremony a number of times, Mr. George Wagner. Incidentally, we recognize George for his work with the Georgetown Partners in Education. What was it, previous century ago, I guess?
11.
That was 2011. Very good. A long time ago. Okay. We also have the person who took the time to nominate Ruby, Sandy Dochin. Has Charles come in?
He was
not able to make it. Very good. We also have Ruby's first line supervisor, Pedro Martin de Nicolas. So thanks for guiding Ruby in the right direction and everything she does for IBM. And we also have the vice president and site location executive, Mr. Tony Beffy. That takes care of all the important people. What I'd like to do is take a moment to talk to you about Recognize Good. We started Recognize Good in 2009. In 2007, the Tyrex Group was a award winner for ethics in business. 2008, ABC Home and Commercial Services was also an Ethics in Business Award winner. And Tyrex and ABC Home and Commercial Services got together with the Samaritan Counseling Center, who was the sponsor at that time, to move this idea forward. The idea of being able to recognize people and say thanks for everything that they've done. Sometimes saying thanks in person may not be enough, and you want to say thanks to them. We have an opportunity to say thanks to a lot of different people worldwide. Those people can be your family, your friends, your acquaintances, whether they are local or even worldwide. So in 2007, we started this in motion. In 2009, we launched Recognize Good. And then in 2010, we started to see that a number of the nominations were head and shoulders above what we were normally getting. And so we started what we call the Legends of Recognize Good. We now call it Recognize Good Legends. And if you look over here, we have our class of 2010. This is when we first started. Kay Gooch, librarian at Galay, was our very first. And you see this list for 2010. Here's our class of 2011 to include George Wagner. And incidentally, our first international, Devchandar Mohan, who works in India. And then our class of 2012, and we are working on class of 2013 right now. So enough about Recognize Good and what we do. What I'd like to do is have our first speaker come up and tell us a little bit about Ruby. And I told Ruby she has time afterwards for any rebuttal that she needs to give. So Sandy, if you would, sir.
Well, this is an honor to be here, to be with Ruby and particularly her parents, who I've read a little bit about and have the chance to meet today, and her husband. And you all at IBM know that Ruby is a woman who works from her head and her heart. She's a darn good engineer. That's what her supervisors or managers and others say. And of course, I've worked with her on the community side, mostly through Austin Partners in Education, the classroom coaches. Now, Ruby is one of about 70 IBMers. So, George, all of you need to know that we have a lot of, and several in the room right here, just fantastic volunteers and really work with these kids. Ruby has taken on some particular leadership, and just her story that I'm sure you all have read about, or mostly have heard about, how she and her family came here from Cuba, and she didn't know English, and she just started learning and doing, and really this is giving back, and she's just an exemplar of that. Her mom says she's always been like this. She has a goal, and by gosh, uses that engineering kind of mind to go get it, but she just really cares, and she wants others to have some of the great opportunities that you as her parents and others have given her, and of course you at IBM, who are great colleagues of Ruby and think so much of her. So for that kind of leadership, not to sound too corny, but Ruby, to me, you're really in the embodiment of the American dream, and you're sharing it and giving it back and sharing it with others. So you're my champion and my legend and on my high pedestal. So thank you for who you are and being a leader really for all of us. Thanks.
Pedro, anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure. First of all, Charles would have loved to have been here. He had a conflict, in fact, 2 conflicts. So he had a speech ready to say, and unfortunately, he's not able to be here. And I'm sure that Scott and Susan Cohen, your vice president, would have loved to have been here too. 2 things that I wanted to say. One is, what makes Ruby good at work is what makes her good in volunteering. When she sees a need at work, she goes and fills that need. She goes after that and makes things that make sure that things are done. And I think she's seen a need in the community here in Austin through API and through the work she does with the tax work she does for people who need their advice in taxes. So she has seen that need, and she goes after it with the same passion. She does a lot of other things. And the other thing I want to say, you're an inspiration to me. All the work you're doing, it's amazing that you have time to do all these things, and you need to share how you do it. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Kathy Jones from the Austin Partners in Education to say a few words.
Thank you. This is such a fun part of my job, and I enjoy getting out of the office and getting to come do things like this, because Ruby's been a shining star for API for a few years now, and we are thrilled that the word is getting out about the good work that she does. This past May, Ruby was our recipient of our API Volunteer Champion Award, and we created this award so that we could recognize someone who not only has longevity as a volunteer with our organization, but someone who stands out among our 1,800 other volunteers. And Ruby does just that. She has shown great enthusiasm and positivity, and she also helps us fulfill our mission of providing academic and mentoring support to the students who need it most, so that they too can have choices beyond high school and perhaps one day be an engineer like Ruby. Ruby is all these things to us and more, and we are thrilled that she's getting this award today. She's volunteered with API for 3 years, and for most of us, that means 3 assignments, 1 assignment each year. But for Ruby, that means that she's completed 10 assignments. She's worked with 2nd graders and middle school students, both in reading and math. As an IBM engineer, she and her team of colleagues have championed the API program internally to encourage their coworkers to get involved. And as a group, these engineers have adopted whole classrooms and brought middle school students even to the IBM campus to witness firsthand why math is important and fun. Finally, Ruby has graciously made API her cause and has written some grants on our behalf so that we could have extra funding from IBM that would help support our programs. I'd like to close by saying our board president, Mark Curry, summed it up best at our event this past May when he said we could not do what we do without people like Ruby.
You are very amazing. And we can expect more next year, correct? And even better things. We get to the really fun part now of the ceremony, and I'll ask two of our folks who have been through this before with me to come forward. Earl Maxwell, the CEO of St. David's Foundation, and Mr. Bobby Jenkins from ABC Home and Commercial Services. I will also ask Mr. George Wagner from our class of 2011 to come forward and help us with the presentations.
I'm not as famous as Bobby Jenkins. He's on the radio and television all the time.
You don't spend as much money on that.
Yesterday we had a meeting and he had a shirt on with ABC Home and Commercial Services, and I said, you must be going to the film studio to be filmed because he's filmed so much. But I had the pleasure last night, I only met Ruby today, but I had the pleasure last night to read about Ruby's background and her history and what brought her family to the United States and the barriers that she and her family have overcome. And although we just met this today, we have connections way beyond what Ruby understands. Because I moved to Austin 27 years ago, and one of the first people I met was Sandy Dochin. And guess what? And we had lunch at the Headliners Club. I hadn't been here a month or two, and we met at the Headliners Club, and guess what he asked me to do? Join the steering committee of Austin Partners in Education. And since I didn't have anything to do other than work, I said yes. I also had a passion for education. And so what was interesting about that is 2 years later, Sandy became the chair. It was actually Austin Adopt-A School back then, but I'll call it Austin Partners in Education since that's its new name. Well, I mean, it's not so new anymore. But 2 years after meeting Sandy and agreeing to go on to the steering committee of Austin Adopt-A School, we didn't even have a board at the time. I think it was a steering committee. He became chair of the board of Austin Partners in Education. And then in 1990, 2 years after that, I followed Sandy as chair of Austin Adopt-A School. And then in the 1988-89 period, this is the connection to IBM, beyond Sandy. IBM had a program called Project Mentor. And Sylvia Stern was an executive at IBM. And IBM loaned her to AISD and Austin Adopt-A School for a year to start the mentoring program. And I had the pleasure of being one of the first 20 mentors in AISD. And that was thanks to the generosity of IBM. So all these years later, and then, so fast forward 27 years later, you know, I've gone on to do other things, and I'm still involved in the community, but guess what I do every Thursday morning from 9 to 10? I mentor a classroom of fifth graders at Ojeda Middle School in the Del Valley School District, and I've been doing that for the past 6 years. So I still have the mentoring bug going all the way back to IBM's Project Mentor. So I wanted you to know we have deep connections, even though we only shook hands for the first time today. So I applaud you for continuing the work that IBM started so many years ago, that Sandy started and led, and it's just wonderful to know that you have taken such a leadership role. So thank you.
So I just wanted to say, obviously also getting to read your story, I mean, the power and the impact that it has and what you are doing in the community when we talk about what the Legends of Recognize Good means, and it is folks in our community that are doing these unbelievable things that benefit so many folks, Ruby's story is the quintessential what Recognize Good is all about. That's what we're trying to do, and you just exemplify that in so many different ways. And when we talk about IBM, I too have known Sandy a long time and have known Tony. IBM as a corporation, and to have folks like you that are involved in it, obviously IBM gets it. They understand what's important to our community. And it is, like Earl said, it is all about education. You know, we've got to continue to drive that. It has to be our highest priority. Here locally in Central Texas, I hope that we all understand that early childhood education, education all the way through the system, is what makes Central Texas special. It is what makes us the desired place to be. And so with Ruby's hands-on, in the field example and leadership and the support of IBM, that's what makes this a great place, and that kind of giving back to the community is incredibly special, and it is absolutely what makes you such a deserving recipient of the Legends of Recognize Good, and we just can't thank you enough for the great work that you do.
Okay, I hadn't planned to do this.
We hadn't either.
My function is life is very simple. I am an asset builder. We have 40 developmental assets, which is an international program. The average child has 20 of those assets, not sufficient enough to be employed by great companies up here. So my role is to work with our 10,000 kids in Georgetown, identify their potential, and bring that potential to the surface. That's my function. So I mentor 5 children. I work with Head Start. I work with this group and a number of other groups. But there's potential out there. So when you leave the building today, ask yourself, take a look at a child, your grandson, your son, or anyone, and say, what asset would that child need to make me a better person and improve the probability of their success?
Kath, if you'd come back up, Pedro and Sandy, if you would. We have a couple of gifts to present. Please accept this Recognize Good cup. In Ruby's honor.
Thank you all so much.
We'll toast right in here.
That's right.
Ruby, here's a mug with all kinds of goodies in it, and also a gift card to one of the best international French stores here, Target. Can we stay up here? We have other things.
Great. So Ruby, what we have here is a Recognize Good book of your deeds, and also, and I'm all about logo shirts, as Earl said, and we've got you on with the Legends of Recognize Good, and so congratulations once again. Thank you so much.
And Ruby, feel free to put those back on the table.
You may hold it.
This is
Plants are good.
Here's a living remembrance of today that you can have in your home or your office, wherever you like.
All right, set that down, but now we've got the big one.
Okay, Ruby, this is a bromeliad, so don't water the base, you water inside. And not often. I have a green thumb.
And this is a fun part. This is where we're donating $1,000 in Ruby's name to pay it forward to Austin Partners in Education. So this is the part that is really tangible and the real way that we're able to say thank you for the amazing work that you've done for our community and to pay that forward to Austin Partners in Education. Thank you.
that check is very nice for taking pictures.
Which is the part I like.
And for putting it in your credenza or on a bulletin board. This is the negotiable check that Austin Partners in Education can actually deposit. So please accept this and congratulations. Ruby, the floor is yours.
So I'm not going to use the microphone.
Okay.
My voice echoes a little too much. And I don't mind. So I want to say thank you first for all the colleagues and friends for coming here and support me. It means the world to me that you took 20, 30 minutes out of your busy schedule to be here for me. It means a lot. So you can tell I'm really nervous, so your presence here calms me down tremendously. Also, I want to thank Sandy Doshin tremendously for nominating me for this award. It's one of the most amazing things anybody has ever done for me, and for that, I will be always very grateful. And I wanted to thank the RecognizeGood organization for giving me this award, this extraordinary award, and giving me the opportunity to do one of the things that I love most, which is give to the organizations that I believe in and have the ability to provide more things for them, whether it is financial help or just like treating volunteers. For all the distinguished guests, you have been tremendously endured. Thank you for coming here, for talking to me, and for saying all those nice words, and it means a lot. And just last, for my manager for being here, just saying this kind of words, it means a lot. And Hal, I know you're retired. You coming here means also the world to me. So, and last but not least, for my family, I know you also work and have things to do. Thanks for coming. Thanks for my parents. Thanks for making the decision for me when I did not know what to do. Thanks for showing me what is good and what is not. And this is for you. So it's for you.
Today has certainly been a very special day. Thank you all for coming out here to say thanks today to Ruby and what she has done. But I have another challenge for you. In January, coming up, we are going to run our Say Thanks Austin campaign, and that'll be worldwide. In February, we will have our closing ceremony featuring Bobby and Earl, I hope again this year. And people worldwide will have the opportunity to say thanks to Ruby once a day, or all the legends if they want to. And I encourage you to build your social networks to get folks to say thanks, because whichever legend gets the most thank yous will get another pay it forward check, this one in the amount of $10,000. So don't forget, you can say thanks today, but keep saying thanks to Ruby, especially in January, and look for more on the Say Thanks Austin campaign coming up. It's been a truly remarkable day. Thanks to the IBM folks for letting us use this great room for this ceremony. It certainly is impressive. Sandy, thank you for facilitating this. Debbie, thank you for your help in facilitating the Austin Partners in Education. And remember, when you have a chance to say thanks to somebody, go ahead and use RecognizeGood and tell the world about someone who changed yours. Thank you very much.